breaking news coming in from the city of Calicut in the Indian state of Kerala. An Air India Express aircraft arriving from Dubai has crash landed at the Calicut International Airport in Karipur. Now, this was a Vande Bharat flight. Initial reports suggest that over 190 passengers were on board the aircraft, and as per reports, 2 people have lost their lives. Now, reports suggest that the aircraft crashed after overshooting the runway and fell into the 35-foot deep valley. Now, the fuselage, that is the front portion of the aircraft, broke into 2 parts. The cockpit and the front door of the flight have been completely damaged. Several people have been reportedly injured. The incident took place amid very heavy rainfall in the area. The flight skidded off the runway amidst this bad weather. Fire tenders and ambulances have been rushed to the spot, but no fire has been reported after the crash. India's civil aviation regulatory body has ordered a detailed probe into the incident. The Union Home Minister of India, Amit Shah, has expressed distress over this tragic accident of the Air India Express aircraft in Calicut, Kerala. The National Disaster Response Force has been instructed to reach the site at the earliest. The Chief Minister of Kerala has directed the officials to make necessary arrangements for rescue and medical support. The Chief Minister has updated Prime Minister Narendra Modi about the entire incident. Now, our correspondent Siddharth MP joins us live for more details on this. Good evening to you, Siddharth. This tragic accident in an Air India Express craft arriving from Dubai, crash landing at Calicut International. We believe it overskidded the runway. What are the latest details that you have for us?
Well, we're given to understand that this incident exactly took place at around 7:41, just after the aircraft touched down on the runway. This was a Boeing 737. In fact, it was a repatriation flight that was coming into Calicut from Dubai. So this Air India Express flight, as soon as it touched down, so there were a couple of issues right there. So firstly, there was a heavy rainfall which had sort of been an impediment to visibility. So we were given to understand that the visibility at the time of landing was very low, and there was also some water on the runway because of the fact that there was heavy rainfall at that point in time. So now what has happened is, after the aircraft touched down, it perhaps lost control and overshot the runway. And the Karipur airport, which is Calicut's international airport, this particular airport has a peculiar nature. It is the fact that this airport is at an elevation of about 30 to 35 feet. Technically, they call it a tabletop runway. So when compared to the land around this particular airport, this entire runway and that airstrip is about at an elevation of 35 feet. So essentially, after this plane had overshot the runway and overshot the perimeter of the airport itself, it had actually had a tragic 30 to 35 feet fall into the gorge that is just after the runway's perimeter. So this is what has led to maximum damage. We're given to understand that in the initial phase there was no fire, and so far there are no reports of any fire from that particular site. But of course the damage is severe, because we are given to understand from the visuals that this particular aircraft is split in half at the fuselage region. This is split into 2 halves, and we're given to understand there's anywhere between 2 to 4 casualties at the moment, and a serious evacuation and evacuation efforts are underway. There are more than 30 ambulances on the site, and also the Chief Minister of Kerala has ordered the collectors of Calicut district, where this accident took place, and also the nearby Malappuram district to rush to the spot to coordinate all the efforts and ensure that as many lives are saved. Yes, we are given to understand that also many people are grievously injured in this accident, because this is a severe fall, a fall from about 30 feet while on board an aircraft that had just landed. So indeed, yes, the situation is a little grim, and we'll have to wait to understand as to what are the real numbers coming out there from the ground.
Siddharth, stay with us. We are going to just show our viewers some graphics from the scene, some live visuals that we have coming in, and just a map of the area and the airport. As you can see on your screens are the visuals of the Calicut airport there. It is a tabletop runway. These runways are typically much shorter, and the tabletop runway meaning that it is at an elevation. It's at a height of about 30 to 35 feet. And we believe now in the bad weather that the aircraft has over-skidded and fallen off the edge of this runway, the fuselage breaking into two. Now, Sadat, what are the current rescue operations that are going on at the moment? We do have reports that 2 people have lost their lives and there were many other people on board. What are the current rescue operations underway?
Yes, the exact number of people that have lost their lives in this tragic accident are, of course, unclear at this point in time. But the reports vary from anywhere between 2 to 4 people having lost their lives. So that is something we can only confirm with time. But besides that, we are given to understand clearly that many of the passengers were grievously injured. There were 184 passengers on board and 7 crew in total, which included 2 pilots and 5 cabin crew members. So 7 crew members totally and 184 passengers. Were given to understand that anywhere between 10 to 20 of the passengers were also children or infants. So at this point in time, all we can say is that there are more than 30 ambulances on site, 32 particularly on site. And given that all the authorities are apprised of the developments on the ground, all resources are being mobilized, and several hospitals in the region are getting ready to, take in as many patients as possible, provide them the necessary critical care, emergency and first aid, so that, they can be provided the necessary care to ensure that they are safe and sound, because this is quite a tragic accident. And of course, there is the shock that we'll have to factor in, because a fall of nearly 30 feet after the flight having touched down. So this is what we should, keep in mind, because, to be in an aircraft and to have the entire aircraft, split in two, these are two tragic incidents that words cannot describe. So at this point in time, we can just say that this is also sort of reminiscent about a 2010 incident that took place just north of Kerala. It is in southern Karnataka in Mangalore airport. Something similar had happened. It was again, I think, an Air India aircraft that had landed there. And just similar to today's incident, this flight too had overshot the runway. And there too, there had been a tragic accident where the aircraft fell into a gorge, and subsequently there were multiple injuries and also multiple casualties in that particular accident. So for now, we can only await more details from the ground. And it is needless to say that several district collectors, police officials and ministers and MLAs are following up the particular situations that are going on the ground and ensuring that as many people are rescued as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And Sadat, we know that this crash has taken place in very, very bad weather. There's been heavy rainfall in the area, and also we know the fire tenders and ambulances are there, but no fire at the crash site.
Absolutely, that's what we're given to understand. The initial reports and suspicions are such that given that the flight skidded off the runway due to poor visibility, it is also suspected in a certain sense that the heavy rainfall could have in a certain way prevented any possible fire. Of course, it is clear that there has been no fire at that particular location at the time of landing. But yes, we are given to understand that the plane has split into two. But, there is no preliminary report of any explosion also having taken place after that tragic 30 feet fall, and that needs to be seen as a sort of bright spot in this entire accident, because a fire or any explosion of that sort, God forbid, would have been a really tragic instance. And in this case, given the fact that there are injuries and so on, goes on to indicate that a lot of people can be saved and a lot of people can be taken to safety and can be provided treatment when the right intervention is in at the right time.
And we know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been advised on all the details at the moment. There's a tweet from him condoling the loss of lives in the plane crash. What do we know about all the authorities that have been briefed on the latest details coming in from Kozhikode?
Well, actually today has been quite a tragic day for Kerala because a handful of lives were lost in Kerala's Idukki district where there were heavy rains and resulted landslides. And here we are on the same night, just about 10 a.m. we had tragic reports coming in of a severe landslide having, claimed multiple lives. But now here we are talking about another incident connected to the rain in a certain way and connected to bad weather where an aircraft is skidded off the runway. Yes, at multiple levels, authorities are appraised of the situation, right from the Prime Minister to the Home Minister to the MLAs, ministers and down to the collectors and senior police officials in Kerala. All of them are trying to do what they can at their respective levels to assist the agencies and assist those on the ground. And of course, the senior level officials at the ground level, be it the collectors of Malappuram or Kozhikode district, be it the Kerala Chief Minister, all of them are working towards ensuring that this situation is under control to a certain extent and the damage is minimized to whatever extent possible. We're given to understand that there's anywhere between 2 to 4 casualties at the moment and several are grievously injured. So the numbers could change either way. And we'll just have to wait to understand what is the reality on the ground and what is the result of the treatment being provided to all these people. Are they recovering? Are they responding to treatment? What are the nature of injuries? And it also depends on the age of the passengers because we're given to understand 10 to 20 of them were infants or children, and there are also quite a lot of senior citizens on that flight. So when we look at it holistically, yes, it is indeed a tragic incident and the authorities on the ground are working as we speak and trying to get this situation under control and rescue as many people as possible.
Siddharth, thank you very much for that update, and of course you'll be keeping us briefed with all the latest news coming in there from this tragic accident that has taken place in Calicut. Breaking news here coming in from the city of Calicut, the Indian state of Kerala. An Air India Express aircraft arriving from Dubai has crash landed at Kozhikode International Airport in Karipur. It was a Vande Bharat flight. Now, initial reports suggest that we are hearing there that over 190 passengers were on board the aircraft, and as per the reports, 2 people have lost their lives. Now, reports suggest that the aircraft crashed after overshooting the runway and fell into a 35 feet deep valley. The fuselage, which is the front portion of the aircraft, broke into 2 parts. The cockpit and the front door of the flight have been completely damaged. Several people have been reportedly injured. The incident took place amid very heavy rainfall in the area. The flight skidded off the runway amidst bad weather. Fire tenders and ambulances have been rushed to the spot. No fire has been reported after the crash. India's civil aviation regulatory body has ordered a detailed probe into the incident. Union Home Minister of India, Amit Shah, has expressed distress over the tragic accident of the Air India Express aircraft in Kozhikode. The National Disaster Response Force has been instructed to reach the site at the earliest. Now, the Chief Minister of Kerala has directed the officials to make necessary arrangements for rescue and medical support. And the Chief Minister has updated Prime Minister Narendra Modi about the entire incident. Now we're still coming to you with live visuals from this tragic accident that has taken place in Kerala. We are still being joined by our reporter Siddharth MP. Siddharth, what are the latest details that you have coming in now from Kerala?
Yes, we are given to understand that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had a word with Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, and the 2 leaders have spoken and they've assured each other of complete support. The Prime Minister has said that the authorities at the disposal of the central government, such as the NDRF, will be mobilized, and the Chief Minister has also accepted this offer and said that all the machinery that is available at the state's disposal at the state level, be it the police, be it the health services, be it the other SDRF, all of these will be pressed into action as much as possible, as soon as possible, to ensure that the damage is minimized and as many lives as possible can be saved. It's also important to note that this is a time when already the medical infrastructure is facing a certain challenge of sorts across India because of the COVID pandemic. So in a certain way, we'll have to keep in mind that hospitals will have to optimize their resources in a certain way, that they'll have to on one hand treat COVID patients who are there in their hospitals, and on the other they'll have to keep their emergency wards at the ready to treat so many people who are coming in after grievous injuries perhaps and the shock of this particular air crash. There are some unconfirmed reports that are coming in of the deaths going into double digits. We're given to understand there's more than 10 deaths. These are the information that we are getting from the ground, that there are slightly above 10 deaths, about 11 deaths. Unconfirmed reports, of course, coming in about 11 deaths from this particular accident that has taken place at the Karipur airport.
We're getting reports that from Karipur Airport that this was runway 10. The aviation regulator has said the Calicut airport has a short tabletop runway, which makes landing at this airport extremely tricky and challenging, and considering that there was such bad weather at the same time.
Yes, indeed. Tabletop runway is always a challenging scenario, and even in the past, as we had just recollected a while ago, there was this incident that took place in Mangalore. It was a similar Air India aircraft. It was in 2010, just almost a decade ago, when that flight had approached for landing. There was some error at the time of landing, and the flight had overshot the runway, unfortunately, and it had slipped and fell into a gorge that is just after the runway.
And this accident has taken place at about 7:45 p.m. Have any of the family members of people on board been notified? What are family members who know that they had loved ones on this flight, what are they meant to do?
Yes, so right now we are aware that the emergency room has been, control room has been set up at the Karipur International Airport, and they've started a couple of new helpline numbers. So any of the kith and kin of the passengers or anybody who's related to these passengers can immediately ring up to understand the status, because at a time when evacuation flights and even flights in general are very limited in India, the passengers are going to be very few in number. So it's going to be a matter of serious concern for the families to come across such a report late at night that an aircraft has sort of overshot the runway and skidded and landed. And certainly, at an impact like this, not many people would be able to, reach out to family or kith and kin, and not many people would be in a state to actually communicate clearly to people. So all we can go by now is that the Kerala government has stated that there are multiple helplines available, and these are being operated from the airport. So based on the information available from the flight manifest, they'll have to sort of compile the details and see who are the passengers who are on board, their names, their ages and so on, so that they can correlate the same with the data available with the hospitals on who is being admitted, where they're being admitted, and also their current status. So this will indeed take a couple of hours, because this is a complex operation, because in such sort of a rubble, to go out there and find people to ensure that they're shifted to the nearest hospitals, and then from there to collect their details, collate all of them accurately, and also to revert to their families who are back at home, or perhaps in a foreign country, or perhaps sometimes in Kerala, to reach out to them and let them know that they're safe. It is going to be indeed a humongous task and a challenge, but yes, the Kerala government and the central government have said that they'll be mobilizing all the resources that are available in their disposal to ensure that maximum people are being saved.
Siddharth, we know that this was a Vande Bharat mission flight, bringing people, repatriating people from Dubai. We believe that the plane's pilot, who has lost his life, we believe that he was a former Air Force pilot.
So what we're given to understand is that from preliminary reports, given that this was a sort of a landing where the flight overshot the runway, unfortunately. So technically speaking, when it overshoots the runway, it first goes and hits the airport perimeter wall or the boundary of the airport, and thereafter it's likely that the plane in many ways falls nose down first. So this talks about the impact that we're also seeing from the images, that the fissure in the aircraft, the break in the aircraft where it is split into two, has also happened towards the frontal side of the plane. So this goes on to prove that in the front area of the aircraft, the impact was much more, and it's only natural that when an aircraft falls nose down, the impact in that region is going to be much more than anywhere else on the body of the aircraft. And this has been split into two. The aircraft on impact is split into two complete pieces. The fuselage has been split. So we'll just have to see as to what is the situation on the ground there, because after an aircraft is split into there are multiple complications involved, because the impact of the crash itself is actually quite a severe hazard for the passengers who are on board. That 30 feet fall from such a heavy object to be inside a plane and to have the fuselage split. And right now we're given to understand the latest information is that 3 hospitals in the vicinity of the Karipur airport, and this is kind of sad information that's coming in, that the death toll is 11 people have lost their lives in this crash, and we're given to understand that several others are grievously injured. So 3 hospitals in the vicinity have confirmed this information so far, that 11 people have lost their lives in this particular crash that has taken place following an overshooting of the runway.
Tragic news indeed. We believe that the pilots tried to land their plane twice before the crash landing actually happened.
Yes, indeed, Alison. So when there is a tabletop runway, even a general landing on a good day would be a very complex operation for even the most experienced of pilots. So the fact that there was an incident that took place in 2010 in Mangalore, it was similarly at night that accident had also taken place. This only goes on to prove that tabletop runways are in many ways a hazard and must be avoided as much as possible because of the likelihood of accidents taking place, particularly accidents where the flights overshoot the runway. So here we had 2 major challenges that the pilots were faced with. Like you said, they had to attempt landing twice. So that is one challenge. So to attempt a landing twice itself means that there were several operational difficulties. So it could be the fact that the visibility was very low, and that is confirmed also from preliminary reports that the visibility at the tarmac was very, very low because of the heavy rainfall that has been lashing that part of Kerala. And also while landing, it just is natural that when there's heavy rainfall, there could have also been a considerable amount of water on the tarmac when they were touching down. But these are only preliminary reports, and only the DGCA probe into this incident, a detailed probe, can render more details and let us know on what exactly went wrong or what the pilots had attempted. Of course, in cases like this, black box recovery also could hold key to what was the last minute conversation between the traffic control tower and also the pilots to ascertain what were the actual details, what was the flight data recorder having on board, that what were the parameters at the time of landing and what was the situation they were facing in, what were they communicating with each other between the captain and his associate, and also between the captain and the air traffic control.
Siddharth, thank you very much, bringing us all the latest details.